I grew up, I was always like that weird horse kid. I am Major Andrea Matesick. I'm part of the 49th Fighter Training Squadron, and I am a part of the Air Force Equestrian Team. Really just started through the Air Force sports program. I called the gym and just the supervisor there, and they put me in contact with Randolph, the sports people, and I just kind of worked it to where it took me a while just to kind of go down a lot of roads to find out that if you are competitive in an Olympic sport and you're competing at a certain level, the Air Force will let you go TDY to compete for them, which is pretty cool. I try to train 5 to 6 days a week, depending on my schedule, and so it's really hard because of the flying schedule. You know, some days I'm flying first thing in the morning, and sometimes I'm a third go. So sometimes I'm out at the barn at 4 in the morning to try to ride to get before work if I'm going to fly in the afternoons, or I'm at the barn, you know, until the sun goes down.
Then I want you to do the natural long bend off your eye. I train different students different ways, and I think from being a pilot, maybe having a bunch of details, having a bit of a checklist for her to go through in her head before she starts her course, before she gets on, rides her horse, is not unlike what she has to go through, I would imagine, in some ways, in flying an airplane.
I jump about 2 times a week just to save the horse's legs, keep my eyes, you know, in the practice, and then the other 3 days as just kind of fitness work with the horses. It's a sport, and it's a very high-level sport, but you have your partner that doesn't speak the same language as you do, right? And they have good days and bad days just like you or I have good days and bad days. So sometimes I'm on my game, but my partner isn't. It's very different than flying an airplane, because an airplane you put an input in, and it's going 99% of the time it's going to react the way an airplane's supposed to react. Horses, not so much. So depending on what they're feeling like that day, you know, you put an input in and they're like, well, no, we're not going to do it that way. I want to do it this way. And then the other challenge is time, big time, you know, is trying to manage the Air Force side of the career stuff versus trying to be competitive. Because, you know, my goal would be to ride for my country one day, you know, and as you know, any kind of high-level sport, that takes a lot of time and a lot of commitment, and so does the Air Force.
There's so much more that goes into the sport that happens behind the scenes and in the early morning hours, late nights, with the vets, with the blacksmiths, you name it. And she's a very well-rounded horsewoman as well. So it's been a pleasure knowing and you know, working with her.
I'll have horses till I'm old and someone has to wheel me out to the stall. If I couldn't ride, I would still be involved somehow with the horses. They're awesome.